Hello Nancy, good grief, what brings you up from London?
Well, come to see my favourite cousin.
So what are you cooking for us today?
I'm going to cook salmon 3 ways. So I'm going to show you how you can use a big piece of salmon and use it for different meals. That way, because people can be a bit intimidated when they see a big piece of salmon. So
This is
scared of the fish.
a big giant salmon and you're going to use it 3 ways?
Yeah.
Lovely.
For 3 different meals.
I'll leave you to crack on.
Okay. So what I'm going to be showing you how to use is this beautiful salmon fillet. You can see it's just cut like that. I actually got it from the supermarket. I asked the fishmonger department. You'll also find sometimes they have it on special. And the reason I take this is that it's typically better value. And if you get it on the skin, it's also a bit cheaper than if you already get it filleted. It can look a little bit daunting if you're not used to fish, but I'll show you how to do it 3 ways. We'll cook it and then we'll eat it hot, and then we'll have another 2 meals out of it cold. So, first thing I'm going to do is prepare how I'm going to cook it. And I'm going to cook it in the oven. And the key thing is to not overcook it. If you overcook it, it becomes a bit dry. So you can see this is quite a big beast, and I'm having to put it diagonally and then put that bit there. So you're putting it skin side down. You're not going to eat the skin, so you don't need to worry about crisping it up. So as you can see, lovely big fish. So next thing, a little bit of oil. I just use a spray because you don't actually want too much of it. So just wee scoosh of olive oil. It's not extra virgin because you're going to be cooking with it. And then dill. Now, we're going to use a lot of dill. You don't need to be afraid. Dill is a very mild flavor, and it looks like you're going to put a lot on. You are, but it actually helps keep it nice and moist. So you're actually creating almost like a little crust of dill. I'm trying to make sure it's kind of evenish. Right, that's the salmon ready to go into the oven. It's going to go into an oven temperature 150 to 160 fan. If it's not a fan oven, make it 170, 180. It depends a little bit on your oven, whether it's a really hot oven or not. I'm going to put this to the side now, and I'm going to prepare the accompaniment for the first meal, which is going to be salmon and fennel, char-grilled fennel. So I'm just going to put this to the side. The reason I'm not putting this straight on into the oven is that I don't want to overcook it. The char-grilled fennel you can put in the oven and keep warm, but the fish you can't. So prepare the veg first, and then the fish is all nice and moist. So fennel, you can get it in supermarkets or in markets. It's a slightly funny looking beast, and just cut the end off because that will be a little bit dry, and then the base here. So you can see I'm using a really sharp knife, so you do need to be just a little bit careful. And we're going to cut it into thick slices. So I'm doing it carefully because they will start to fall apart, as you can see. If you've got a bigger one, it's a bit easier. Should add that I did wash the fennel before we started. So you're trying to make kind of slices that are a bit thick. This bit here you can see is a bit hard, so I'm cutting it off. So next one. Here, holding it again, and one. It's going to fall apart a bit, but it doesn't really matter because it's all going to go into a griddle pan where it's going to get char grilled. and in the end you just eat the pieces, so that's what matters. Right, I'm now going to go over to the hob where I've got a griddle pan. So got a big griddle pan here. I've got it on really hot to try and heat it up, and then I'll turn it down a bit. You do need to be a little bit careful because I'm going to put some oil in and it might splatter a bit. Again, I'm using the spray oil. So you can see it's steaming as it goes in. And now I'm going to put the different bits in. Now, if you're confident, you can put them in like that. If you're not, use tongs. And because and now you can see it's already quite hot, so I'm going to start turning it down a wee bit. Right, I've got it down to 6 now. The nice thing about fennel is that it's also great raw. So it's not something that you need to worry about completely cooking through. You're trying to get a bit of a char grill on it, which is nice in the summer. In the winter, you can do it in the microwave, and then it tastes completely different. Right, so get that piece in there. Just get these wee bits in. Move that out of the way. So you can hear it sizzle, but it is going to take a little bit of time to actually start to get a char on it. The thing about char grilling something in a griddle pan is that you do need to keep your eye on it, which means don't have other stuff cooking that you need to keep your eye on. That's why doing this first and then I'll do the fish. And I'm putting it in the middle. And as you can see, I put it on at 155, I think, 160. And I'm now going to set the timer. It should take about 10 to 12 minutes. If it's more than that, you've probably overdone it. But I'm going to start checking it, having a wee look at it as of 8 minutes. Because if the salmon's thinner at some ends, they might cook faster. So timer on for 8 minutes. Just to check it. It's going to be really hot, hence my little silicone protectors. All right, you can see it's changed color, and if I look down at the side there, I can see it's not quite done yet. Don't know if you want to come and have a look here. You can see inside it's still quite darker pink, and if I cut through that bit, you'll see in the center, it's still looking a bit raw. So it's at the thick bit that you need to keep an eye on it. So there, where you've got that slightly, that bit's done, that bit needs a little bit more. There we go. So, right, and I'm going to turn the heat off, but just leave the pan still on with fennel char grilling. It will stay nice and warm because we're not very far off being ready. Right. So this is going to be for several meals, so I'm not using all of it in one go. I'm going to just cut very delicately, and get one of these. Now you remember this one has skin on it, but the skin tends to come off when you cook it, if you just do it very delicately. There. So I'll put one piece of salmon there. Now, I just lift this up. And you remember I told you to keep a long piece here. Well, that's so that you can wrap it up. It's not so much to keep it hot because the dish is going to be served cold, but it keeps the salmon nice and moist. So you're keeping it in the same foil that it's been cooked in. And you close that over. Now I'm going to bring over the char-grilled fennel. And we'll lift a bit of that. Easy.
So I see you've got some salmon for me, Nancy.
Yep, salmon, char-grilled fennel, a little bit of mayonnaise.
Nice.
All I can say is tuck in.
Tuck in. Merci.
I like it with a bit of
Okay.
mayo. It's still quite moist, so that's one of the advantages of doing it
So fennel.
in the oven with the dill on top, is it keeps it quite moist. I probably should cut this piece, but
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much.
you're very welcome. And then we'll meet up in a little bit and we'll
Absolutely.
do the second and third recipes, so
Yep.
you've got the second and third ways for the salmon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye bye.